And one tool that I find really helpful, it's a really simple tool, and it's something that was developed during my time with the Toronto Maple Leafs, working alongside Darryl Belfry and Mike Ellis and Adam Nicholas. Those are all household names in our industry. And the thing that we really cared about was frequency and success rate. So frequency is how often does something happen when you're on the ice, and success rate obviously is what's your number of positive plays versus negative plays. So for an example, every single player I know loves to shoot the puck and loves to work on their shot. Well, is it a high frequency play? Because if you're a good shooter, you might get an opportunity to shoot it 8 to 10 times a game, which you think is high, but how many pivots are you taking the game? How many times are you getting a puck off the wall? How many times are you catching a puck on your backhand? How many times are you boxing out? Like there's a lot of really far higher frequency skills that maybe get overlooked or that players don't really want to work on. So frequency is really important. And also success rate. So an example of success rate is when you have a puck in the neutral zone, how many times can you get it deep? Or how many times can you enter with control? And obviously the higher it is, then the more over time, the more important that skill becomes in your game. So you can sort of split it in 4 quadrants. If it's a high frequency, high success rate skill, then you leverage that as much as you can, right? If you're Connor McDavid, you want to get the puck and then you want to hit the middle of the ice because you know that it doesn't matter if there's like 3 guys standing in front of you, you can find a way, right? If you're a stay-at-home defenseman, well, your high frequency, high success rate skill should be getting the puck out of the zone so that you don't have to defend quite as much, right? What about a high frequency, low success rate skill? Well, these are your very obvious weaknesses that you've got to improve, right? Because that's ultimately what's going to hold you back. A defenseman that doesn't pivot so good, or a forward who can't forecheck because he's always turning the wrong way and taking the long way back to the zone. Sometimes we get skills which are high success rate but then low frequency. And those are marvelous development opportunities if we're able to identify them and then connect them to the player's game. So for instance, we had a player in Toronto by the name of Pierre Engvall. And Pierre Engvall was a 7th round draft pick. He was a big kid who skated really well, wasn't overly physical, but what we found was whenever he'd get the puck, he was really good at getting it into the middle of the ice. And the thing that really accelerated his development when I was at the AHL level was we played him at center even though he was a natural winger and he plays wing in the NHL right now, because that gave him the reps, that gave him the confidence to really take the next level in his development, even though originally it wasn't a high frequency skill for him. And then finally, when you have skills which are low frequency and low success rate, you can either ignore them because at the end of the day, you only have a limited amount of attention and time and energy. So if you have a scoring winger, is it okay that they can't skate backwards? Well, I know of several NHL players or former NHL players who scored hundreds of goals in their careers and they don't skate backwards better than the average, junior C player. But, it was such a low frequency skill that it didn't really matter. On the other hand, if you have a player, let's say, who's a high school level player or maybe even a major junior level player, and he's taking the puck and going coast to coast and going through people and scoring that way, well, maybe right now it's a high frequency skill and he can get away with it, but maybe as he moves into the pro game, it's less projectable. And this is an area where it really helps to have a lot of experience understanding what are the differences between the different levels of play. And having the knowledge to project different players and say, okay, well, in 5 years you're going to need this, so let's work on it today so that you're never in a tough spot. So I'm going to show you a few examples now of players that I've worked with or people that I've met during my time in the game, and just sort of really brief case studies to kind of put a face to all of these concepts I'm talking about. So first of all, if you have a player with an elite strength, you want to leverage that. You want to make that even better because that's really what's going to drive them to become all-stars and become, again, future NHLers.